There are two basic types of Chinese cabbage that are out there. This one is bok choy, and it generally needs to be cooked. If you get it really, really small, you can use it raw, but otherwise it gets a pretty strong flavor that kind of gets tamed during the cooking process. The other one is Napa cabbage, and it works really well in a Chinese slaw or an Oriental kind of slaw. The nice thing about this one is that you really get two vegetables in one, because the stalks are going to take quite a bit longer to cook, so you're going to have to separate them. So what you want to do is make sure that you clean them well, and make sure when you pull them off that you look down in here and you'll see dirt down here. That needs to be washed away, so it does need to be separated from the clump before you start to work with it. Look on both sides, make sure it's okay. Then you also want to cut off about the bottom inch, because there are often blemishes down on that part, and it's also a little bit tougher. And then check the rest of the stalk for other blemishes. This would need to be cut away as well, because you wouldn't be able to truly get that clean. If the leaves are in good condition, they're fine. These have quite a few holes in them, so I probably would defer those to other purposes and look at some of the others that are in a little bit better condition. Then simply separate the stalks from the leaves, because the stalks are going to take somewhere, 5 to anywhere up to 10 minutes. And they're very similar to celery, except they're not stringy. And when they cook, they get very, very creamy if you braise them. Otherwise, you want to cook them in a stir fry. They get kind of a tender crispness to them. I'm going to stir fry them today, and we're going to do something bok choy with fresh vegetables. So I've got about a teaspoon to a little bit more of olive oil. I'm going to put it around the edge of our wok, and you can do this in a nice big skillet as well. I've got about 3 tablespoons of red or yellow or white onion, whichever one you have, and several cloves of garlic. I've got, I think 3 cloves of garlic here that I've minced up, and this is going to stir fry, and make sure you stir it, because you don't want any of these to get too done, for about 3 minutes. Once you get the garlic starting to brown just a little bit and the onion translucent, go ahead and add 2 carrots. Now you notice that I've cut the carrots on a bias. The idea with stir frying is to have a very short cooking time, and in order to accomplish that, you need to make sure you've got as large a surface area as possible. So the carrots are cut on a bias to give that large surface area, and we'll cook them for about 3 minutes as well. At this point, we've got some fresh green beans that I've cut into slices, and we'll stir fry those for about 2 minutes, but at the same time I'm going to go ahead and add the stems for the bok choy. Now remember, the stems are going to take quite a bit longer. We want to get them a little bit brown and develop some of the flavor. You could also add at this point, or even a little bit earlier, a couple of pieces of ginger, but you'd want to remember to take that out unless you were going to go ahead and mince it. This should go for about 2 minutes before we do anything else. As you can see, the stems of the bok choy are getting a little bit creamier colored, and they're getting nice and shiny from the oil. So we're ready to go ahead and add the chopped leaves. Now these are going to take quite a bit less time. In fact, it may only take about a minute. One of the nice things about bok choy is that it is a green, but it's in the cabbage family as opposed to some of the other kinds of greens like spinach. So it doesn't cook down till it's almost nothing. But it also has the advantages of other members of the cabbage family in that it's very high, or a good source of vitamin C. It's got the indoles and the fiber, which help reduce the risk of cancer that other kinds of cabbage do. And surprisingly, cabbage is also a fairly good source of calcium. Although it's not nearly as good as milk and dairy products, it is a good source, so that it does add to the calcium amount of other things that you get during the day. At this point, you have a choice. If you want it to cook down and be a little bit softer, then you can add a little bit of chicken broth. And I'm going to add just a little bit, anywhere up to, 2 or 3 tablespoons would probably do. I'm just going to add a little bit, about a tablespoon to that. I'm also going to add about 1/4 of a teaspoon of red pepper flakes. And that one, again, is how spicy do you want it. And then to finish it off, we're going to add about a tablespoon of a light soy sauce. Now you could use other kinds like a hoisin sauce or an oyster sauce, whichever one you happen to have available. Notice how quickly the greens do limp down, but they still have some bulk to them as opposed to something like spinach, which would have pretty much totally disappeared from here. At this point, it's ready to serve. And this will serve somewhere between, probably around 4 people. it's a nice change from the regular kinds of cabbage that we have. It's a good way to use up the bok choy and also a lot of the other nutrients. Bok choy, like other kinds of cabbage, is also a very good source of beta carotene. And so this recipe in a single serving will have about 150% of the vitamin A that you need for the day. This is bok choy and fresh vegetables, a good way to start the spring and the early summer. For Oklahoma Gardening, this is Barbara Brown.